everybody, it's Henry at Mowers and Blowers. Welcome to another episode of Saving Tractors. I got this tractor through a trade from my friend Armando at Mowers. I helped him take down this shed over in a town near me, and that took about an hour and a half. I also gave him 2 power washers that I got from Jason over at TITESEAL Performance. It was a good trade. I basically got this because I needed the seat and the deck for that Murray Select that I got going. That Murray Select is in very good condition, which is why I decided that I needed a seat and a deck, so I can put it all together and possibly sell it in the future, right? But then when I got this trade, it was a great trade. Has an engine in it, and it doesn't currently run yet, but we'll figure it out today. My friend Larry and Bob also came by on the same day that I did the trade, so they got to meet Armando too. We had a good time together. We tried to start it together by taking an old battery that I had given Bob and Larry to see if they could try to fix it, because they have done it before. They've used distilled water, they've used baking soda to flush it out, and they've rejuvenated batteries before. So I gave them 2 of my batteries, of which they both still didn't hold any charge. While trying this one that day, it had very little juice, like maybe 8 volts or something. So it barely turned the motor at all, I had in turn, overnight, past 2 days actually, charged the battery up, and then I unplugged it like yesterday. So it's been sitting for a whole day without a battery charger on it, and I just put a multimeter on it, and it shows 12.37, so it's not holding its charge. But 12.37, I just hooked up the battery charger to it again. Perhaps if I put it on engine mode, it should get enough amps to give this a crank and see if it starts. I sure wish that I had an easy fix for a change, because my past 2 or 3 lawn tractors have taken between 8 and 14 episodes to fix, you know what I mean? Because Larry and Bob were telling me, what are you going to take this engine out, take the deck and the seat and put it on the other Murray for? You have a complete tractor right here. Why don't you just get this engine running and sell it? Because this actually is in really good shape too. There's hardly any rust anywhere. And then I thought about it, I'm like, they're absolutely right. Why should I dismantle this to fix another one when this one's already ready to go, as long as you get the engine started, right? I did notice that the deck is a little uneven. On the right side over here, it's like hitting the ground. And on the left side over here, it's about 3 or 4 inches high. As you can see, it is in very good condition, If you look at the wheels and stuff too, the right side front, was flat, and I had inflated it with air yesterday, or day before yesterday, and it has a very small leak in it, so small that it still holds air. See? So this tire's, pretty good. Maybe a little bit of fix-a-flat in there will seal a slow leak. But like I said, this mower seems like it's okay, At least if I get the engine running, this will be a good candidate to just flip, seriously. It's a 14.5 horsepower, and what's unusual, this is actually a 42-inch deck. My Black Beauty is a 12.5 40, and the Murray Select that I just fixed is a 13.5 40. So this being a 14.5 42, this is new to me. I've never seen a 42-inch deck on this type of Murray before. Gas tank looks very clean. It's empty, of course. Has a fuel line that goes into one of these cylindrical fuel filters, which it's supposed to be the gravity fed kind, but I did a whole video on the differences. It's very minute differences, but there could be flow problems, if you're going up and down hills. There's some, oil residue all around it. It has an original Walbro on there for this specific horsepower engine. So it's a little sticky. the choke, but it chokes, but it doesn't release, you know, so that, I'll watch that. So let's try to start this thing, and the first thing we're going to do is, let's check the Earl. Ooh, very good oil. I mean, the oil looks like it's in great condition, like new. But it's up to here. The oil, at least the reading is. Gas. It smells like gas. That's the reason why it's the level is up so high, is because the needle in the carburetor didn't seat. And if it doesn't seat, all the gas from here will slowly flood the carburetor, flood it so much that it trickles into the crankcase, mixes with the oil. So while the oil looked brand new and glistening, let's check a real reading here after I wipe the dipstick. Latest new dipstick. Holy cow. So it's about a quart past full. And it smells like gas. So I'm thinking that there's some gas in here, which will cause this to smoke and not run correctly. Let's just give her a start right now. Well, you know what? We can't, because there's no fuel, because the gas tank is empty, right? So let's just squirt a little bit of go-go juice in here, which we tried to do, but the battery was Dunsky. So I'm putting my charger to engine start mode, right? I'm going to use some carb spray, but this is a multi-purpose parts cleaner and degreaser from my friends over at Lucas Oil. Should be good enough to get the vapors in there. It's on choke. Let's see. Ooh, cool. However, did you guys see that? Engine is not mounted on the thing very well. It's very loud though. Started right up, you know what I'm saying? You see, this has a fuel solenoid. These always create problems with starting, you know? Let me just click it and see if it works. See, I don't hear this clicking. It should be clicking is what it is. I'm gonna put some gas in there. So I actually ran out of gas. All my containers of gas I've used up already recently. I have this, feels like about 2 gallons of gas that I got about a year ago. The reason why I got it a year ago is because that was when my friend Scott Keller came down from Elmira, New York. He drove like all day to get over here. That's where we did a trade for my Jacobson snowblower, which he still has and runs and gets rid of the snow. He brought me some ethanol-free gas at about $2 or $3 a gallon. I just gave him $5 for the 1.5 or 2 gallons that he brought me. So theoretically, if we talk about non-ethanol gas, this gas should be perfectly fine, even in a year. You know what I mean? I didn't use it because I was stingy. I didn't want to use the really good gas for anything, right? But right now I don't have any gas, so I'm just gonna have to use it. You know. You can keep this gas in your machine for quite a long time without it gumming up because there's no ethanol in it. And it's still very clear. We'll just put in about a half gallon or so. See, there's a millimeter level there. Just so we can test it, see if it runs. How about that? You see, with these cylindrical type fuel filters, it's good that you can see through it, right? But honestly, if there's no fuel pump, so nothing is sucking this in there, you know what I mean? It just goes in by gravity. As you can see, it's hardly trickling in there at all, you know, so I don't know where it's going to get its gas from. See? No gas is going in there. I mean, it's slowly trickling right here. But will it trickle enough to go up this, you know, up the incline into the carburetor? You know? Doesn't seem to be working much at all. That's why I don't like these fuel filters for gravity-fed fuel tank deliveries. So I don't know if this is getting gas at all, you know. Let's see the flow. So, like I said, it's just hardly trickling into here, so I don't know if it's getting any gas into the carburetor at all, you know. So I'm amazed by how clean this gas tank is. So I'm going to remove this fuel hose, right, and see if we're getting any fuel trickling out. But like they say in Canada, oh! Did you guys see that Daytona 500, huh? The postponed one on Monday? What an ending, huh? That was really exciting. How about that? It's getting plenty of fuel in there. Even though it doesn't look like it from here, you know what I mean? So it's getting fuel. Let's see if it starts with gas. Now if it doesn't start, it has to do with the fuel filter or the solenoid's not working. And it's not letting gas go in there. Or it's not letting gas go up the emulsion into the carburetor. Which is why I hate those things. Let's see. Engine start mode. About that, huh? Tell you what, that's awesome, man. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to start. I did it to lowest throttle and didn't stall, so I'm pretty amazed. Apparently, obviously, the fuel solenoid does work, even though I don't feel it clicking or anything like that. As you also saw, it is louder than hell, right? And I was concerned that it was going to smoke a ton, but it actually didn't smoke all that much, you know what I mean? There is some residual oil, obviously. The oil feels thick enough to have a good viscosity, right? So that there's gas in there, but the mixture isn't so much as to compromise the viscosity of the oil. The oil still is clean and it's clear and it's syrupy, so it's good enough to, you know, keep this engine going for a bit. I think eventually I will drain the oil and add some new one some new oil in there. As you could tell, why it was so loud is because this muffler it's not even in the hole. You know what I mean? So the muffler needs to be attached to the engine. It's not. Also, there's a bolt here, the right rear bolt. It looks like it's a jigged bolt. It's a bolt in there. It has a nut on it. It's not a threaded one that goes in there. So maybe it's stripped, which is why they probably put it in there. The engine has to be secured on here nice and tightly. This muffler needs to be dismantled, this cover here, and the muffler needs to be put on correctly. As you saw also, I engaged the PTO lever, and the mower deck sounds great, you know. I do need to mess and adjust the height levels on each side just to make sure that it's not lopsided so it'll cut right. But how about it, huh? I'm not going to jinx anything. I was just about to say something, but I'm not going to jinx anything. But right now what I'm going to do is, carburetor seems fine because it runs with the fuel, you know what I mean? I think I will eventually change that fuel filter to a gravity-fed type fuel system and kind of cut the hose a little bit shorter because it has like a lot of slack. If it has a slack, it'll droop down, and therefore, unless you have a ton of fuel in your gas tank, it's not going to have enough pressure to push the fuel down and up the incline of the hose. So I'm going to shorten the hose so that it's a direct, straight shot right into the carburetor without any droop, you know what I mean? It's gravity fed, you know? Gravity's going to pull the fuel down, but unless you have a lot of fuel in here, it's not going to push it back up again. And we don't have that much fuel here, so I'm surprised it even runs to get the fuel, because it didn't look like it's getting any fuel from the cylindrical fuel filter designed for fuel pumps. I think I'm going to address the muffler first. I'm going to see how that cover comes off. As you can see from this angle, this tin is supposed to be inside this shroud. So I'm going to have to remove this shroud. In turn, I also have to remove the dipstick. But I don't want to pull the dipstick out along with the shroud because, as you saw, the oil is overfilled way past full. So if I lifted this entire shroud with the dipstick attached to it, a lot of oil will spill out. So I'm going to disconnect the engine cover from the gear cover as well as the dipstick. Dipstick? Cletus, you dipstick!
Cletus, you know what you are? You're a dipstick! A 14-karat dipstick!
So it's just a couple of quarter-inch. Oh, that'll be difficult to get to. I've just loosened all the bolts for this apparatus. What do you guys think? Rat's nest or no? Wow, pretty clean, man. Surprising. Everything looks like it's in order. Very clean. A little bubble on this ignition coil, but that's just the outer rubber. There's a bolt over here that's holding this end of the cover, the heat shield on. Doesn't look like it's the right bolt. Also, I was over here, I was putting my hand here, it's really jiggling. There's a bolt missing over there that holds this on there, see? So it needs some TLC for sure. Got like a 1-inch bolt in here. As you can see, it's one of those galvanized things. It's not the right one. This is just the cover, the heat shield, which is useful. And it looks like it's still hot, so I'll try not to touch it. It does look like it's the right bolt. I don't see a super hot. I think I have to burn and gasket's off. I'm going to try to get some gloves on and we'll wait for it to cool down. Managed to get the gasket and bolts all lined up. I'm just slowly torquing these down. That's it. You don't want to mess up muffler bolts. Like I might have just did there. That's on there now. Good. Very good. I think eventually I will probably adjust the valves, but it seems to start okay. Need to find a bolt for this area right there to put the shield back on. I'm going to oil up this mechanism here. So I put a couple of bolts on the left-hand side of that heat shield, a bolt on the front part of it that is right next to the valve cover. Now this thing is solid on there. Now look, here's the bolt that is holding the right side engine on, the right rear engine mount. This is the engine mount bolt. This is the reason why the engine is not securely on the frame, because some dude just stuck a bolt in there with no end to it. I've got an engine bolt right here. I'm going to try to weasel it in. Weasel it! Tighten the engine bolt over here. At the same time, I tighten the other three as well. I'm going to use some Toolbox Buddy from my friends over at Lucas Oil Products. Same thing as WD-40, it's their version of it. I'm going to rotate this gear higher and squirt a little bit underneath here. Just to lubricate the springs, you know what I mean? This is all buttoned up over here. So normally on gravity-fed systems like this is, right, you shouldn't have this one on here. I'm going to crimp off this part right here. I'm going to take off this fuel filter. It's not the right one. Actually, this hose is so long and this part is so wide that I'm just going to cut it over here because this part is bad. Oh, all over my new driveway. I usually put a fuel shutoff on this, but because it has a fuel solenoid, right? The fuel solenoid is supposed to stop any fuel from going up the carburetor. This is in bad shape too. I might have just cut this too. This actually just gives me a good opportunity to add a fuel shutoff, but I'm going to shorten that hose. So I shortened my line. This line is going directly from the gas tank straight into the carburetor. So I don't worry about droops, and the fuel flow should be good. I also drove in a half-inch bolt into here. And now it's not loose anymore. So I'm getting there for sure, getting it all cleaned up. There's a pickup truck from the town of Huntington inspecting my next door neighbor's new shed. So I'm not going to start my stuff right now. Also, before, my choke lever was a little sticky, and now it pops back into shape after I use some carburetor cleaner and loosen that part up, because it's supposed to pop back. You know, when you push the choke in, right, that's choked. When you let go, it's supposed to pop back again. It didn't pop back because there's so much grime right around that joint, so it's holding it back. So just spray some carb cleaner, clean up that entire area, and it pops right back into shape again. So that's going to work. I think it's going to need some carburetor adjustment later. That looks good. I always take some lubricant, lubricate up the throttle bracket over here. Everything looks a-okay. I'm going to put the engine cover back on. Engine cover back on again. The reason why that tin on the other side was sticking up is because it's the wrong tin for this. I tried putting it on too, but it ended up to be too high. That tin is not the original one for this engine. So I just cut that top part out just by pulling it out. It's just sheet metal, you know. So now it's on here, it doesn't rub on anything. I think eventually I will have to give it an oil change because it does have gas in it. It would cause it to smoke. But carburetor is a little bit loosened up. Put the air filter back on. Got the muffler on, the heat shield on, and that's about it. So let's give it a crank and see. 16 volts. That's a lot. Let me lower the throttle. Lower the throttle to the lowest. Still charging it like almost 16 volts. It's a little too high if you ask me, but that's something to do with this battery.
Hey guys, support my channel, buy a sticker. Also follow me on Instagram at Mowers Blowers. Check out my website, mowersblowers.com. See you guys next one. Have a great day.
See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers.